It's important we recognize how HIV affects people differently. Many communities, or specific groups, are often left out of the story. Together, we can turn a new leaf and make sure no one is forgotten. In this session, we will hear from activists, sex workers, and entertainers about how HIV has affected their lives.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kaylee, and I'm going to be moderating this session. I'm so grateful to be here. I'm here in San Diego, California, and I was born with HIV and diagnosed with AIDS in 1993. And we are here to discuss pay to play. And I have a beautiful panel with us for you to share and get some enlightenment from and learn. And we have Rashna. She is the vice president of Pavara Bay Area. We also have Nikki Rainbow Envy, which is a sex worker and a member of Respect Incorporated, and my personal best friend, Mr. Aiden Park, who is a professional speaker, best-selling author of The Art of Being Yay, and a comedian. And thank you so much. We are here to talk about pay to play. And if anyone would like to start off, Rashna, would you like to start by sharing your aspect and what you do in the world of HIV and sex work for pay to play?
Yeah, first of all, thank you for giving me this opportunity. My name is Rachna Mudrapaina. That's my full name, and I identify myself as a trans woman. And I'm also a transgender rights activist. So I have been from the age of I think 24 or 25. Now I'm 40 plus. Like I've been into sex work, and though I have been like a double postgraduate fellow, finished my postgraduation in the commerce and also social work, but being a trans person, I was unable to find any job. And that's how I have been able to choose sex work as my profession. And from then, I have been advocating for sex workers' rights, and I'm also part of two national level sex workers networks in India here. One is All India Network for Sex Workers, and also National Network of Sex Workers. I'm part, and also resource person of both the networks now. So, being a trans person and also a sex worker, it has been a different, experience always for me because it was always every day was a risky day for me, and the moment I enter into the profession, I have also my colleagues, lot of trans women who have been already infected by HIV, and we have few HIV prevention interventions, luckily, but they are supposed, and their work is confined only for getting us tested frequently and also for supplying the condoms and lubricants in timely basis. But that's not all sex work. Part of sex work also includes a lot of vulnerabilities which bring to, either it can be a male, female, or of any gender person who has been into that profession. For trans people, mostly the society always has a bias of their gender, and also immense transphobia. So that's how we, mostly the transgender women, when I have been into profession, have been badly treated, few times by strangers, by police, or by the clients. And I have seen a variety of such violent incidences happening to me and also my colleagues in this profession, like throwing away acid and throwing away chili powder and hitting with stones and attacking with knives all of a sudden. And we have seen all such and all such emergency situations, and mostly the transgender women who are into the sex work and who are infected by HIV. Uh, they My colleagues, most of them are very inconsistent of using, like, not having the antiretroviral drug, and it was very tough to initiate them, because once it's the part of counseling which have not been full-fledged, have been done. And because of that, I feel a lot of times that the trans women who are into sex work lose their hope on the life itself, and they feel they have no value for their life, and that's how they are into more into the risky behavior, and without initiating any antiretroviral, and that's how very soon they are very near to death. And uh, and I have lost a lot of my colleagues to HIV and AIDS. So it's every time it's a very painful experience, because losing one of your colleagues is like every day you have been with them, and you've spent a lot of time with them rather than your natal family. In the profession, you share everything, and every risk and every vulnerability you share with them, and every joy you share with them. But all of a sudden, that person is not there with you only because of HIV. And now, coming into the reality, what are the needs actually the transgender sex worker women, or the transgender people who are into sex work are in need? Prevention is there. Prevention is happening everywhere. But the other part of HIV is when one single transgender woman who is into sex work has been infected. What part of counseling is going on through them? Are they encouraged to be part of any counseling to encourage to live a healthy life, in spite of they have been infected by HIV? That's the first priority, which I think no project is now throwing light on that, because being a trans person, we not only need counseling for the condition called gender dysphoria, often which we are supposed to take regular consultations for the gender reaffirmative surgery sort of. And if someone has been HIV positive also, we need special such counseling, because mostly, I think, mostly the transgender women who are going through gender dysphoria are discouraged to do surgeries, depending on the risky behavior, and that can be harmful to their bodies. So we don't have any such counseling systems for compartmentalized for gender affirmative, or using or using and reaching out for antiretroviral. That's the first priority. The second priority is the opportunistic infections, which mostly transgender women who are into sex work face are mm, are are also need treatment, and transgender people are mostly restricted to be enter into the government health setups, because they they sometimes are made to wait a lot of time, because there are normally long queues in government hospitals, and few of them fear that because of the shy feeling of which they face due to infections, opportunity infections, they would never visit the doctor, and that's how the risk becomes more, and their rights become more, vulnerable for other due to HIV and also the opportunistic infections. So we need a specific comprehensive health which go on hand in hand with the public system, not only for cisgender male or female, but also exclusive for transgender persons, because they need that private space for the health and to address these issues of opportunistic infections. And that way, we can minimize the risk of HIV also. And apart from that, like opportunistic infections, now when I'm coming to the third and the final part of when a person has been infected with HIV, and sorry, and they have been in a very adverse stage, very near to the AIDS such stuff, such stage, then there is no such care and support for them, and we have no such infrastructure. Still, we are lacking behind of discussing for infrastructure for the transgender women or the transgender people who are infected by HIV. No single project I see are inclusive of care and support. All the time when we have a patient, we have a client of a transgender who is infected with HIV and slowly losing to the AIDS stage, we have to run to pillar and post again, or pillar to post again to just accommodate that person a single bed for the treatment, in the government facility or the non-government care and support facilities. So what the need of this hour is the care and support system. We need to invest on the care and support system. The infrastructure should be built up and exclusive for transgender people. And there must be people employed for their care and support and looking over the if they have been ill health, they have been give food, medicines, and proper care. And that's what we need, and that's what we are mostly need of. Like, and now coming to the other such advancements like PrEP, which has been very recently uh, introduced to the India market. I think that needs a lot of sensitization and also healthcare screening mostly, in order to encourage people to go on PrEP, and mostly transgender women who doesn't have a proper counseling or proper you know health screening for hormonal intake for treating the gender dysphoria. They need a special counseling, and even the medical experts need to do a lot of research whether the person who has been on HRT, and when to start, how to start, and how their bodies or get accustomed to their to the hormones before they go for surgeries, and also the counseling part, as I previously said. So these are the few things which I really want to hope, I really wanted to, uh, um, I really wanted to highlight uh, that transgender women who are into mostly particular to the sex work need to be given special policies by the state. Last but not the least, I really also wanted to raise this point of like how we have seen in the past the profession of sex work itself has been criminalized, and we have seen in the past lot of such spaces, the tangible spaces I'm talking of, have been sanitized, and this is because of the infrastructural change. This is because of the man-made, or concrete jungle sort of buildings around, and also the flyovers to make the smarter cities more. Often the communities which live on roads mostly, and they are the sex worker women, women in sex work, or the transgender people. Slowly, the state tried to rehabilitate them. I feel there is no, I think, so rehabilitation cannot be, rehabilitation is not a solution, a permanent solution for anything. I feel like, and rehabilitation should come voluntarily for any marginalized community, including the women in sex work, or the transgender women in sex work, or the transgender women themselves. Because if we if we started if we started to thinking more and throwing more light over the infrastructure and beautification of the cities, then it may be there may be a risk of the sex work may not vanish or get sanitized over there, sanitized over there. It may be get invisibilized, and any sort of profession which has been invisibilized and gone into and hidden under the racks cannot be unsafe, can be unsafe, and there cannot be any safety for such profession. Because if a trans woman who is a sex worker, mm, then she may be vulnerable to the space wherever she goes for sex work, which is around the four walls. She can face any such sort of violent, incident. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I'm
Thank you
getting
so much.
that. Thank you for
Thank you
that.
so much, Rashna, that you are so for thank you so much for bringing your story and
Thank
highlighting your views. It needs to be heard so much. And I've been saying ever since I was a little, been on social media, HIV is an acronym, and the first word is human. And we're all humans. Like, we need to not disassociate ourselves from being a human, because that's what HIV is all about, humans. And thank you so much.
you.
Please ask your questions in the comment box. We're going to get back to them when all the speakers are done speaking. And now I would like to have Miss Nikki Rainbow Envy speak a little bit. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon for you guys, I believe. Thank you for inviting me to speak today. It's actually almost 5 a.m. in the morning for me here in Australia, so forgive me when I lose my place in my notes. It's also why I'm presenting from my bedroom. I'm trying not to wake my entire household up. So I'm here to share with you all a little about me and how I came to be a sex worker by choice. Just quickly before I begin, I want to acknowledge the many varied and valid stories that exist in the sex work sphere. Because sex work is a very broad term, it encompasses a wide range of activities across a range of countries and cultures and values. I believe it's important that I recognize that my stories and experiences may not be the same as someone else's, and that my experiences in no way invalidate those of another sex worker. I'm here to express my experiences as a face-to-face sex worker working under a legalized but criminalized system of sex work. I also recognize the place of privilege that I have in my work, and that the experience of others are not lessened because they're different, especially for anyone who's had negative or traumatic sex worker experiences. So, here in my state of Queensland in Australia, certain types of sex work are considered legal. Essentially, I am a small business. I have an Australian business number. I submit and pay taxes. I hold business insurance. I have a business bank account. I have to manage cash flow, marketing, branding, client management systems. I am a small business woman, but I'm also a wife of 13 years. I hold a bachelor's degree in child and family studies, currently studying a joint art and business degree. I've held real jobs in corporate settings and blue collar settings. I am, if I may humble brag a little, a well-educated and articulate person. Despite this, I am not immune to the stigmatization of being a prostitute, which makes life infinitely more frustrating. I have struggled to get loans for a car, low interest credit. My work is deemed risky, even though I have 4 years of solid income. I cannot disclose my work on rental applications. I literally have to lie and claim that I'm a consultant who does counseling and therapeutic works, which I think is technically true. There are definitely jobs I won't be able to take in the future, and there are a swathe of people in the community who believe that I am, or that I must be, a drug addict, that I have either HIV or an STD, and that I walk the streets in order to get clients. And for me, none of that is true. But despite all of the challenges and stigma, I still choose to do sex work. And I get asked a lot why I chose to become a sex worker. And for me, really, it comes down to, why does anyone choose a job? I just had to find the right career and work fit for me. Now, back in early 2017, my working life was not fit for me or my family. My husband and I were both working full-time in the family business, and it was struggling. You know, we were rarely able to pay ourselves a wage, and we decided that I needed another job. I tried to get a regular job, and the only job I could get that was flexible was call center work. Now, if anyone has done call center work, you know that it's not very fulfilling, and it's quite stressful. So on top of my regular 40-hour-a-week unpaid, I was also trying to do like another 30 hours at minimum wage, and I couldn't do it. My mental health declined, my relationship was strained because we just never saw each other, and simply put, we were both miserable. I had to quit and find something else. Now, perhaps fate intervened at this point, but I came across like an article or something, and it was on sex work. It was a very harsh article, very negative, very critical, and I felt very strongly that there must be another side to the story, something that they weren't telling me. So I Googled and I researched, I read laws, I read anecdotes, I read countless Twitter posts, and I followed several sex workers. What I began to see was a world of consensual sex between just regular, everyday, average people. And the more I thought about it, the more I spoke with my husband about it, the more I thought, why not? Hadn't I already been doing this for free for years? So simply I posted an ad online. 2 days later, I took my first client booking. I haven't looked back since. I mean, sure, I've made some rookie mistakes along the way, like not knowing my worth and charging too little. See, we have a criminal law here in Queensland, Australia, that states it is illegal for someone to say or do something that would entice another person to enter prostitution. And what that law effectively did was to ensure that when I began my small business as a sex worker, I did it without proper support. I didn't have peers that I could go to who were experienced. I didn't know where to go for help. I didn't know how to recognize red flags, basic safety strategies. I didn't know these things. It wasn't until I'd been a sex worker for almost a year that I learned that we actually have a peer advocacy organization like Respect Inc. here that I could go to, that other sex workers were a part of, and that I could join and advocate for myself and for others. I also didn't know that I could just go and get a free sexual health check, no questions asked. And that's what I mean when I talk about the privilege that I have. I'll talk a little bit more about that sexual health opportunities a bit later. Even with how much I didn't know, I didn't really care because I loved the work. I learned a lot about what I liked to do, both sexually and socially. Then I learned to market myself and my offerings to a client market that fulfilled me. These days, my business looks like this. I plan to go touring once a month for just 2 weeks. This means that I book hotels in various towns. I advertise there for a few days. I see my regular clients, some of whom I've been seeing for about 3 years now. and then I move to the next town. Then when I'm home on my off weeks, I have all the time and space that I need to focus on my university studies, my creative writing, and my family. So for me, I love the lifestyle that sex work has afforded me, and I enjoy the connections I can make with clients. I can do this, I think, because the work that I do is the GFE work, or the girlfriend experience. So I get, I probably get a little bit more time to sit down with my clients and to make connections with them. And a huge part of my job, besides the sex, tends to be listening, talking, just being a person they can get human contact from. I think maybe we take for granted having a person in our lives for sort of that human touch and companionship. And I'm not necessarily talking about the act of sex, but everything else that goes with it: intimacy, closeness, that sense you get when another person is intimate with you, the feeling that you're alive, that you're valid, that you are actually worthy of love and affection. Yes, sometimes it is just about having sex and having a good time with someone fun. That's okay. I think as a society, we're kind of moving past the view that sex is somehow sacred, and more people are seeing it as an activity, and they just want to explore it. Now, I mentioned that I come to sex work with a lot of privilege, and aside from my race giving me a lot of privilege here, one of the critical privileges I have is that allows me to do my work safely is that of my access to basically stigma-free sexual health services. So I can carry condoms without fear of that being used against me. I can get regular sexual health checks and blood tests without it being reported as illegal activities. I do that every 3 months. And I can't be blackmailed or harassed by my clients into providing any condom-free services because my work is legal and valid. These things allow me to run my business using like appropriate policies and procedures. So I don't have to worry and stress about contracting an STD or an STI. Just like any business, I absolutely have to review the risks. I take appropriate and regular steps to mitigate the risk, but it's not something that I have to worry about, as some of my, my colleagues who work in more unregulated spaces, have to worry about. That being said, yeah, no job is 100% safe. Every job has inherent risk. There are absolutely ways of transmitting STDs that the use of condoms can't protect you from. There's absolutely, STDs that are more commonly transmitted through other types of sexual activity, such as kissing, and condoms can break. There's the risk of stealthing, which is where a person removes the condom without the knowledge or consent of their sexual partner. So there is always risk, and we work to mitigate and reduce the risk in all other industries. We don't shut down the roofing industry because it's risky. Not at all. We put legislation in place and business practices that ensure people wear safety lines, hard hats, they work in pairs. The sex industry, no matter where in the world it is, it shouldn't be any different. So that's me. That's my work. That's my business. And I hope I've been able to show you a little of just how normal and everyday sex work can be.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to now open up the spectrum of voices and now introduce my best friend's soul brother, Mr. Aiden Park. Mwah.
Hi, I'm Aiden. Kaylee and I are best friends. I call her my little Woodstock. I'm like Snoopy. I have the Snoopy energy, the cartoon, and then she's like my Woodstock. She flutters around and goes. So that's kind of our dynamic. I'm Aiden, and I'm HIV positive. I've been HIV positive for now 17 years. I'm a stand-up comedian, so I like to say that joke. I say, hey, don't worry, everybody, you can't get it from jokes. And my HIV is 17 years old, which means my HIV is almost old enough to buy cigarettes and watch porn. So that's my joke that I like to say to people when I do this on stage. So anyway, so this is the pay to play portion. My story is kind of interesting. I never really took the time to really think about it. It's just been a part of my life that just kind of happened. I was a male prostitute for a minute there, and I have mixed feelings about it. I wasn't like forced into it, but I also didn't consciously choose it. I think I was acting a lot of my unconsciousness at the time, right? So I think the real, like the last speaker said, like I think there is a real need for closeness and intimacy in our world, right? And the way I grew up, I actually was brought, I'm in Los Angeles right now, and I was brought here from Korea when I was 9 years old, and I was brought here undocumented, which means I had no rights, right? So I got into school somehow, but when I graduated high school, I had no way to get a job, and I could not go to college. And the way I grew up once I got here was I grew up in government housing in San Francisco with my single grandmother who worked as a kitchen helper for $600 a month. And we were eating like blocks of government cheese and powdered milk and all that kind of stuff. So extreme poverty, no papers. And I always thought, hey, like I could work hard in school and I would go to college. That was just assumed. So I did that. And I was very heartbroken to find, hey, like you can't go to college. You can't get a job. Also, my grandmother was great at supporting me, but she was emotionally detached. And so I had this, I didn't actually have like anybody to sit with me and be with me from age 9 till probably for a while. I just never, and I found that sex for me was a good way to offer something of value to someone else and then get that need met. Someone will be with me if I'm sexual with them. So I started when I was like 15. I went online and I started, trying to hook up with men, older men. And it's illegal to hook up with 15-year-olds, but that's what I did just because I just wanted someone to value me and to be with me, which I think is so important, especially with our last speaker, had a really good point about having company. And I found sex as a way to get that for myself by giving, my sexualness. So anyway, when I got out of high school, I was already doing it. I was hooking up with like 4 or 5 guys a week. It's not that I have shame about that. It's more that I don't think I was doing it for the right reason. I think if I was doing it for the right reason, like actually wanted to get to know someone or whatever, that's fine. But I was doing it for a different reason, right? I was just trying to fill that kind of like loneliness kind of thing, which was driving me to very unhealthy behavior, like unprotected sex. I was having it didn't matter, protected, unprotected, whatever. I would just meet 4 or 5 guys a week and just, party down. And when I found that I couldn't go to college or get a job, I was like, all right, well, I'm already doing it, so I may as well just start charging. So I went on Craigslist and I did the Craigslist erotic services. And I mean, the first guy, I don't know. I never really, up until I was asked to speak about this specifically, I never really like thought about it because it was just a blip in my life, right? I didn't do it for very long, but like, there was a guy who paid $60 to have me come over, and he was a pretty handsome guy. So it's not about him not being able to get any. It's just, and then there was another guy who gave me $300, and he met me like he ran a hotel, so like he was like working at the front office and he like lived there, and so it was like kind of like screwing Norman Bates from Psycho a little bit. And then there was another guy, political candidate, right? So there was a super staunch conservative political supervisor in San Francisco at the time, who fought against all the liberals, and he was in the closet, and so he hired me to come over. And I remember him screwing me, and right after he started praying, and I thought, oh, lucky for you, you were already on your knees. Anyway, and then and then I met this other man who had braces, and he was in his 50s, and he paid me $100 the first time. And the second time I met him, he paid me $300, and he professed his love to me. And I luckily, like, I didn't know that I was doing this, but I always have like an interest in getting to know people. So he, I think, felt connected to me. And then the third time, he gave me an envelope of $3,000 and a SpongeBob SquarePants shaped sponge, which is very strange. But he was very, very nice. And I actually, like, this was all before HIV now. Once I got HIV, I felt like it wasn't I don't feel like the pay to play part was the problem. I think it was my come from of trying to get that loneliness fill from men by offering something that has nothing to do with intimacy, like, you know, using sex as bait and just, you know, flinging myself around to get that need met. I think that was the real problem. And I think when I got my HIV diagnosis, it just hit me in the head. It's like, hey man, get it together, dude. This isn't working out for you, right? So, but as it relates to the pay to play thing, I never really had a bad experience. I'm not encouraging anybody to go to do it. If you were going to do it for the right reason. Do your research, like our last speaker. Like, do your research and do your due diligence and keep safety precautions and make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, because it works for you, not because you're trying to get some other need met or because of recklessness, you know. But I didn't have a bad experience, really. You know, it actually saved me through a really tough time. I couldn't make money, so it was a way for me to make money. It actually strangely made me feel more valued, because somebody was willing to pay for me. So that was something, right? When you have such low self-esteem, it's like, oh, someone's willing to pay for you. It's a big deal. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have like a lot of like feelings about it. What I do have feelings about is that I think it was a misguided, like my promiscuity in general was a misguided attempt to fill a need. And I think that's where I look back and I'm like, okay, I could have done that maybe differently. But that's what I have to say, you guys. So I hope that was informative. And that was actually, wait, when did I stop that? It was 20. I'm 36 now. So what, 16 years ago? That was the last time. So thanks.
Thank you. And I'm just shocked. It's really nice to see a diverse panel from all around the world speak about sex work. And I hope, and I know many people that are listening and watching are going to get much from all of your old stories. And I want to first bring this question up to Nikki. Nikki, do you think that the laws about enticing others into sex work makes it more dangerous for people who are new to sex work?
So the laws that specifically prohibit doing anything that entices people, yes, because the problem we have with the law is it doesn't discriminate between education and information and pimping. So, you know, the idea of the law is to stop a pimp coming along and being like, hey, come and do this, I'm going to take some of your money, or forcing someone to do something that maybe they don't want to do and coercing them to do it. And while that is a great thing that obviously, yeah, of course we want to achieve that, the flip side of that is because it's such a broad rule, it stops people from seeking help and support. I have often been asked by people, how do I get into this? How do I do that? Where do I do this? And I tell people, I give them the information and I send them to places where they can go to get the information. I'm not supposed to, but I do it because I don't benefit from it and their safety does. And that's what sex workers do a lot. They choose between safety and legality, and no one should have to do that.
Yeah, safety is pivotal for everyone, and it's awful that we have systems that criminalize people for being humans and not making them safe. The next question is for Rasha. Gender confirmation surgery can impact HIV and AIDS for at-risk trans women. Do you think that there's enough information about the increased risk, and how do you protect yourself? And if you feel comfortable asking that, like, do you have any precautions, like, when you go out into the world, do you know, like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, I feel that there is no proper information at all. Like, now we are working on WPATH guidelines across the world, and how to, practically streamline the healthy medical practices across the globe regarding the transition health of transgender people. The surgeries or the hormones or the gender identity disorder, all those things. Now we are discussing those things, but that has not yet gone into the medical curriculum of the medical experts. Still the medical experts, all the psychologists or the clinical psychologists or the surgeons feels, and still they term it as a cosmetic surgery, which is a life-saving surgeries for transgender people. So that's the background. If it has not gone still into the curriculum of medical experts, that has made us to understand that it has unlearned the transphobia within the medical uh, medical field, and also academic education. That's what I mean to say. So whenever a transgender women go for the counseling sessions to the psychologist, and the psychologist need to assess the gender dysphoria, but often they get confused and conflates with the sexual orientation of that of gender orientation. So if medical experts themselves has not enough equipped with that knowledge or the exercise how to assess the gender identity disorder, how will they refer them to the hormones treatment? Because that's the first stage, where from gender identity disorder slowly we enter into the hormones therapy, and then we go for, after a long counseling sessions, for the surgeries for gender affirmative service. So all the medical experts in this particular chain, starting from the psychologists, the endocrinologists, and the surgeons and the urologists, whoever are there, they are not properly equipped with the proper knowledge in their academic qualification or academic year also about the gender affirmative services. That has to go first. Second thing, the research I have not done. For example, I'm a transgender woman. I have been identified with gender dysphoria. Then and I started my hormones therapy along with after I getting my gender identity disorder certification from the psychologist. But do my blood group matches with that of my hormonal therapy? Because that has lot to do with the blood group also. The intake of hormones not only mostly have an impact on your liver functioning and also kidney function, but also the blood group which the person is carrying of. So this research itself is not there. What I mean to say is that if the medical field have no enough research, if I'm a transgender woman and I'm into the sex work, and I'm parallelly started the transition also, okay, and I'm started my hormone therapy after my gender identity disorder certification, then soon and that like, or somewhere in my life in this whole procedure, if I get infected with HIV, already I have been medication and lot of medicines, like in terms of hormones or in my body, and now I am supposed to take the ART, antiretrovirals. Do my body will be able to intake of those many medicines to sustain actually, and what will be my health, how it has been screened? All these are challenges, medical challenges still we have.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up and answering that question. The next question is going to go to Aiden. Aiden, do you think that social isolation and struggling for a sense of self is a risk factor for HIV exposure?
Yeah. Like 1,000%. I think that's the biggest problem that we have in the world. the loneliness and isolation and shame. And I think when you are, it is the number one human need, really, connection with others. And so when someone feels isolated and someone feels a lot of shame and they feel alone, they will do anything to make that connection, including risky behaviors, right? So I think that's yeah, yes. So the answer is yes.
Thank you. Yeah, it's crazy how that goes hand in hand, that someone that's hurting is going to put themselves at risk to possibly get more hurt. So, you know, thank you for
desperation. Like, it'll be like, I'll do anything. I'll do anything.
Yeah. And yeah, we're here to empower people so we can not be in a position to hurt ourselves. Thank you so much. I got some more questions coming up. This is the last question. It's for Nikki. Do you think that choosing sex work as a career is, in your country, which is Australia, where it's legal to do so, which is, you know, a stark difference between Rashna and, you know, there's things different in America. Do you think that it being legal in your country helps your clients have a good understanding on how to protect themselves, or like?
No, I don't think it does. Clients come to sex work very, very unaware, very uneducated on a lot of these topics. It's not stuff that the general population really know about. I think clients put a lot of trust on their sex worker, whether naively or they trust the professionalism of the industry, and they put a lot of that trust that the sex worker is going to do things to protect themselves. What I think it does when you work somewhere where sex work is legal, the difference between legal and illegal is that if you're working somewhere illegal, the clients who come to you are clients who are willing to risk jail time. So for whatever that means about that person and the type of person they are, when you're working somewhere where it's legal, a lot more clients are willing to come forward and be like, I want to do that, and it's legal. I can have my needs met and I don't have to risk anything. So what you actually get is a better, I want to say healthier, but that's not quite the right word, but you do get a better standard of client, you know, if that makes sense. So
I feel like it's like a safer, empowered, like.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing so much. Thank you for everyone that's tuned in watching. HIV is an acronym. The first word is human. Let's not be anything and disassociate ourselves from being human. Let's educate and uplift each other and make safe spaces for everyone and break the chain. Mwah. Thank you, everyone.